Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday, so the TTPS is joining us on now in the form of Inspector Michelle Lewis. As per usual, good morning, Inspector, and welcome back to the Now Morning Show.
Good morning to the both of you. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's always a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on set. Inspector, how was your weekend?
It has been a good one from the policing perspective.
Okay.
Of course, we all know that in Trinidad and Tobago there has been declared a state of emergency. And so we've had all officers on the ground, all rank and file of officers, from the commissioner straight down to the last joint, past our police officer, have been on the road.
That's a very interesting part of it that we didn't even discuss or think about, right? Is that now that we've called an SOE, all police had to come to work, whether it was on vacation or not.
Well, leave has been suspended.
Right.
Okay.
So that there was some, for example, if you were on leave and out of the country, certainly,
It would be a little more difficult, right?
So, but since Friday, leave has been suspended.
Okay.
Yeah, so that officers can be more on the ground. Considering the last SOE and what took place, I think officers are very familiar with what is required of us.
Go ahead.
Okay, so but one of the questions, of course, it would have been mentioned in the last postcap that 800 SRPs would have been brought across and absorbed into the TTPS, so they also are on the ground as well already?
Yeah, well, they were already in the police service, you
Okay.
know. They were already active in the organization. They just are now being regularized as a regular police, but they were always active.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Inspector, give us an overview as to what has been happening. The nation has been under an SOE since Friday morning.
Yes.
First thing in the morning, we heard about it.
Yes.
Today is Monday morning. What is there to report in terms of how successful has it been from the police perspective?
Well, certainly we are seeing a lot of intelligence coming forth, and we really want to thank the members of the public for that partnership. And we really want to encourage the members of the public as well to continue to partner with the police. We really cannot do it without you. And let me just indicate the numbers again that members of the public can use. We have the 736 TTPS, which is directly to the commissioner and the deputy commissioners. And then, of course, you have 999-555-800-SAVE. So those numbers are still very active, and they continue to bring that type of information to the police that is really yielding the fruits that we're looking for in this SOE. For the last 48 hours or so, we have seen about 7-8 firearms recovered and seized through exercises. Out of those, we had heavy arm, which you call a rifle, we had shotgun, 4 pistols, I think 2 revolvers, a quantity of ammunition. We've had about over 80 persons arrested, over 70 high priority offenders searched. And so we are using the powers that we have under the current state of emergency to really treat with, not just to suppress, because what we don't want after the SOE is that there is a return, let me use that word, of criminal activity in the country that has persons in fear.
Inspector, can you break down the powers that the TTPS has during this time?
Well, one of the main powers that the state of emergency, the emergency power gives us, is that we do not require a warrant to search someone or to enter someone's premises, particularly for firearm and ammunition. We know in the country that the main cause or the main weapon of choice with violent crime and fatal are really firearms and ammunition, and the rampant use of it. And illegal, the amount that we have in the country and what it is causing to our citizens and visitors alike.
Okay.
Inspector, you mentioned the number of firearms that you would have gotten over the weekend. And then you said just now that we have so much of these illegal firearms in the country. Is there a targeted number that we aiming to get to by the time we wrap up this SOE in terms of what we want to collect?
Well, the unfortunate thing is that illegal firearms in the country do not have a data of how many illegal firearms that exist in the country.
Right.
What we do know is that there are a lot, and so as many as we can take off the streets with the ammunition is as many as the police service is seeking to do.
All right. You mentioned earlier just now as well that the public's assistance is going to be able to help reap the rewards when it comes to the fruits that you're looking for. I am certainly unclear as to what the fruits we are looking for coming out of this SOE should be.
All right, so the use fear is something that continues to grip the citizen in a real way. So much so that persons may not want to go out as they would like to. Children are restricted from recreational activities and that kind of thing. And the reason for the fear is because of the amount of illegal firearms and ammunition that are being used by, and we don't want to really use the word that the Commissioner has said to glorify gangs, but persons who are hell-bent and engaged in criminal activity, violent activities, kidnapping,
extortion,
home invasions,
murder, home invasion,
robberies,
all of it,
and most of those offences are committed with the use of illegal firearms and ammunition. And so what the TTPS aim to do is to remove many as possible from off the streets and out of the hands of persons. It could, and really and truly, when we look at the data, it's not just young persons anymore. You're seeing persons in their 40s who were involved in criminal activity and still involved in criminal activity, no longer considered youth, but still very much active in criminal activity. And so we really want to remove illegal firearm and ammunition from off the streets.
Okay.
Did we need a SOE to do that?
Yes, we do. And the reason why we need the SOE is because the length of time that it takes to get a warrant to search someone is the movement of the firearm and ammunition in a particular place. When you go through the process of getting a warrant, it no longer is there. So you might get some intel that firearm or cadre of firearm and ammunition is now at this location, and by the time you go through the process of getting the judge and the other persons to get that process through, it's gone. So one of the things that the order gives is for that to extract those items. Of course, the police service, as we know, we operate with a high level of integrity, transparency, and that kind of thing. And so on some of our overt operations, we will share with members of the public through our Facebook portal and other platforms. But of course, our covert operations, certainly you will just see the results of those.
What about the preventative detention schedule? How does that operate? And is that also an assistance in these times?
Yeah, so that still exists. Those are in terms of persons who, for example, the order that the Commissioner has and the authority that he has is that persons, he can detain persons within a home for a particular time, restrict their movement out of the country, restrict their movement from a particular home, detain them in a particular area like a detention center and that kind of thing. So those restrictions and those authority the Commissioner has for persons who are high offenders or high priority offenders and persons who the police has information, sufficient information to know that those persons being out and about can be a risk to public safety.
Inspector, one of the things that is also a concern for many on the streets is going to be that with the fact that you can now search without a warrant and the expanded powers during this time, we do have a concern where it comes to criminals impersonating police officers. So what is in place to assure that this, or at least prevent this from happening? Because I know assurance would be a challenge.
Yeah, so some time back, one of the things that the police service did and the Commissioner prior, which would have been Ma'am Christopher, is to return police officers to the gazetted uniform of the grey and blue. And it is gazetted, right? Just like how you have the Defence Force uniform that persons cannot wear it in public because you can be charged. Likewise, the TTPS grey and blue. There are some uniforms that outside of the grey and blue, which is the tactical, the operational, as we know as the digital camouflage for the particular sections, which is like the IATF, the MOPS, the National Operation Task Force, the Guard and Emergency Branch. So those units are still utilizing those. But by and large, the general population of the police service, you would see the regular police uniform, the grey and blue or the grey in terms of women. So that has really curtailed some of the allegations that we had in relation to the impersonation of police officers.
And we hope to see it continue as well, especially at this time. One of the things that's very interesting to me about what you said earlier, Inspector, in terms of the challenge with getting the warrant in time to be able to access where they might be when you get that intel, it sounds to me like we need to adjust the relationship or amend the relationship between the police force and the judiciary so that we can have a smoother flow of that all right, we get information, we should be able to access a judge to get, because I mean, we were able to get the president to sign the SOE at midnight, right? So I imagine that we should have some kind of system in place to adjust that or fix that.
Yes, but not to go into and delve into that, but I know there are some discussions that are being held there, but certainly more needs to be done in terms of that for the processes through the court and all of that, because the police works for the state and you know, that kind of thing. So not wanting to go further into that discussion, it's certainly we need to get some more closer moving parts.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, to make it happen more effectively.
Yeah.
Inspector, can you tell us anything about the threats towards high-level members of society? Have they been reduced? Has that threat been suppressed, or what is the status of it? I know we can't get all the information, but can you at least tell us if that, at least that part of things that we were told that that's part of the reason that we call it the SOE, has that been dealt with, or is it still being dealt with?
So wherever there is a threat, there is always a reassessment as time goes by. With the SOE being called on Friday, it would be really premature to say that a threat that existed no longer exists within a 48-hour period. Certainly, all mechanisms are still in place to ensure that that threat is neutralized and that those persons who have been so put into a level of fear that no longer exists.
Okay. Inspector, share with us what the fines or what the penalties will be for violating any of the regulations during this time.
Well, for example, so under where a person, for example, we're still using our different pieces of legislation in relation to criminal offenses. So that if it is that a person has illegal firearm and ammunition on them, they will be charged under the Firearms Act and the amendment to it, right? So that at this time, I'm not too certain that there are any specific charges.
I was like, what regulations we had to watch out for?
Yeah.
Underneath that, it gives powers to the police, and we utilize all the other regulations, all the other pieces of law, legislation, same thing, that persons can be charged under and detained. Well, of course, this really gives us that strength in relation to detention and searching.
Okay. Right. Inspector, do we have a possible end date for the SOE?
Not that I'm aware of. I know initially there's a 15-day period, and then the extension thereof it will have to go
to Parliament.
Yeah, for an extension.
Okay.
I think the same process as the last time.
A question that's been burning on everybody's mind, which was answered at the press conference on Friday morning, but still sits with everybody's mind, is curfew. Is this something that people should possibly prepare for?
So there's no curfew at this time, so that person's freedom and liberty to move is not infringed in any way. So you can go about going to movies late in the night, going out late in the night. Just, of course, what we want persons to pay attention to, because we have seen, which would have caused the SOE in the first instance, and the commissioner to go that way, is a rise in, and not really a rise, but increase in some of the offenses, and some together with some threats, with some serious threats. So we don't want persons to be complacent in their movements because there is no curfew, right? So we want persons still to be very vigilant in their movement and in their surroundings and that kind of thing, because at the end of the day, the threat and your safety is still something that is very concerning and which we are treating with.
Should persons who are outside of Trinidad and Tobago be concerned to come to Trinidad and Tobago? Because I know that I was told recently by a general manager of a very, very big hotel chain in Trinidad and Tobago and in the world that there were some people who, upon the announcement of the SOE, they cancelled their trips to Trinidad. Is there a concern as to how this affects us on the international perspective?
Well, if you have a ticket to come to Trinidad, by all means, book your seat, come to Trinidad and enjoy your time here. We had a carnival 2025 that was very safe, and we had carnival within the SOE. And from all reports, it was a very safe carnival. Persons were able to go and do whatever they had to do in a lawful way, of course. There was no infringement of persons' rights. There were no infringements to members of the public to tourists coming into Trinidad. So certainly persons need not be concerned in terms of whether they can come to Trinidad and do whatever they wanted to do in Trinidad, go to Maracas and have a bake. Well, legally, right? Bake on the shack, go in the beach, go wherever. Legally, of course, if that's your intention, certainly. But of course, if it's illegal activity, well, we will have eyes on you.
Okay. Inspector, something that other people have also bring up we do need to pay attention to is, yes, we see the numbers go down, of course, during the states of emergency because of the expanded powers, and not in this case, but in some cases because of a curfew. Is there anything that's going to be put in place that will also happen post-SOE that we can continue to see that steady decline?
Certainly we are. So we have a new commissioner. He has made 1 month in the office on Friday. And so he also has some strategies that he's also further to what we already have, that he is integrating within the organization. And so not wanting to speak on behalf of him directly, I know that the members of the public can look forward to some sustained activities and operations within the organization for what we are looking for in this SAE.
All right. So, Inspector, we look forward to seeing the results and the continued updates coming from the TTPS as well. Let me say thank you very much for joining us this morning, as you do every Monday. We definitely appreciate it. Any message you want to leave with the nation as we wrap up this morning? Certainly,
we continue to cover that relationship. So if you see something, say something. Dial 999-555-800-TIPS, and of course 736 TTPS, which is directly to the Commissioner and the Deputy Commissioners of Police, that you can give that information directly to them as we utilize all the powers within this SOE to bring safety, public safety, back to Trinidad and the way we really want it to be.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Inspector. It's a pleasure to have you. We'll see you next week, Monday.
Next week, please, God.
Amen. Inspector Michelle Lewis here with us this morning on the Now Morning Show. Stay tuned. Your birthdays are coming up after this break.
But nowadays and so I am all shocked to know love and peace. Let's say thanks to the police all around, especially